Well, good morning, everyone. It's January the 19th, and we've got a couple of interesting topics to talk about in this upcoming week. I do want to start off by looking at the Northeast as of about 1:30 early Monday morning, and we can see snowfall over much of Massachusetts and the rest of New England. And we can see light to moderate snowfall continuing overnight Sunday into early Monday morning. Now, much of the area around Boston to Providence, Rhode Island, much of this area receiving 3 to 6 inches of snowfall before it exits by mid-morning on Monday. Now, further to the west, we can see the lake effect snow machine really starting to kick in near Watertown, New York. Now, this area off of Ontario will likely see a couple of feet of snowfall as we head through Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. Another area that's favored for snow during this lake effect event will be near Buffalo. Close to a foot of snowfall could fall in Buffalo, with much of it getting started during the day Tuesday. Now, further still to the west, again, much of the Great Lakes, downwind of the Great Lakes at least, could see snowfall anywhere from 6 to 12 inches. One such area is near Grand Rapids in Michigan, where they're seeing snowfall early Monday morning. These are lighter snow showers near Ohio and Illinois. Again, a quick burst of snow for much of you guys, but again, about a dusting to maybe an inch or two at the most. Another area that could see a couple of inches of snowfall early Monday morning is areas in and around Denver. The National Weather Service was saying any location below 9,000 feet could see 1 to 2 inches of snowfall in and around the Denver area. Now, this forecast loop is for Monday through Wednesday this week, and we can see the lake effect snow in full effect during this time period. Many locations picking up 6 to 12 inches downwind of the Great Lakes. One other thing I want to point out here is this Clipper system diving out of Canada during Tuesday into Wednesday, and that could drop another 1 to 3 inches of snowfall over the Midwest. Another thing that will be bringing is a lot of cold air, a reinforcing shot of cold air that will be diving out of the Central Plains into the Southern Plains later this week. Now, this is just a closer look at that snow band that could be setting up in western New York. Basically, anywhere east or downwind of Lake Ontario towards the Tug Hill Plateau region could pick up 2 to 3 feet of snowfall between now and Wednesday afternoon. Another area that could pick up heavy snowfall is just downwind of Lake Erie. There could be another area here that picks up a foot of snow near Buffalo. And in the last frame here of this animation, we can see the Clipper system moving into Michigan as we get into the day Wednesday. Again, dropping maybe 1 to 3 inches of snowfall there, in addition to the lake effect that we see in the beginning of the week. I do want to point out that the snowfall that we're seeing here, accumulating from eastern Virginia up through Maine, is associated with that system that we saw Sunday. So everything that we see during the day Monday through Wednesday will be to the west of this red line. Now, what I want to make obvious for the beginning of this week is the cold air east of the Rockies. And we can see sub-freezing temperatures down to the Gulf Coast this week. Now, we do have a ridge in place still over the west this week, and locations such as California into, let's say, Arizona and parts of Texas will have temperatures in the 60s and even some 70s through Wednesday. Okay, the next map I want to show here is the relative humidity map in the middle part of the troposphere. And one thing I want to show you first is this trough. It's a shortwave trough off the coast of California. Now, this is going to be moving east with time into the central part of the country. And when it does so, it's going to bring a lot of Pacific moisture and also Gulf moisture. And that's going to combine over places such as Oklahoma into the Tennessee Valley and eventually the Mid-Atlantic, providing snow and ice. Now, we can see the combination of moisture from the Pacific and the Gulf of Mexico here as we put this in motion. And we can see by the time we get to Friday and Saturday, this broad region of saturated air really extending from Colorado to Virginia and points to the south. And what this could provide is the potential for a southern storm late in the week. Now, one of the key ingredients for a southern snowstorm is cold air, and it looks like we're going to have plenty of it. We have temperatures maybe 15 to 25 degrees below normal by the time we get to Friday and Saturday this week. And some of the coldest areas relative to normal are going to be over central Texas and even over the mid-Atlantic. We could see daytime highs in the teens by this weekend. Now, this is looking at the daytime highs for Friday afternoon. And what really stands out here is the temperatures over the northern tier of the country. And we're seeing anywhere from negative 15 to negative 20 degree temperatures from North and South Dakota, extending eastward into Michigan. Now, these cold temperatures will likely continue to move south with time and also to the east. Now, as we move into Sunday, we can see where we have teens over Oklahoma and portions of Texas. And this is also the case, let's say, east of the Appalachians and North Carolina and even Virginia. Now, this could change where the temperatures moderate a bit, but in general, we're looking at sub-freezing temperatures for much of the country as we get into Sunday. And these are daytime highs. Single digits and perhaps even some below zero temperatures still occurring over much of the northern tier of the country, from, let's say, the northern Great Lakes and to the northeast. Now, one of the driving forces behind all this cold air coming down south is the 500 millibar heights actually falling with time. And this is indicated by the blue region here we're seeing over the northern tier of the country. We can see anywhere from 30 to maybe 36 millibars below normal over the northern Great Lakes. And this is in contrast to the ridging we're seeing over the west that's been in place at least for the last week. And this has kind of helped to create that seesaw effect where we're seeing these really low heights in the east. So what can the 500 millibar heights really tell us about the troposphere? So if we look at the troposphere here in the figure to the left, so I'm going to kind of direct your attention here for a moment. The troposphere is the very bottom layer of our atmosphere, and that's kind of highlighted here in purple on the screen. And the tropopause is the very top of that layer. And if you can imagine, the top of the tropopause is the coldest part of the troposphere. And when the 500 millibar height, again, that being the middle part of the troposphere, begins to fall, so does the rest of the troposphere. So what happens when the 500 millibar heights actually begin to rise? Well, if we look at this figure to the right, and if we think of an instance where the height actually begins to rise with time, what we end up getting is a larger troposphere. So I've kind of indicated that by a larger purple box here to the left in this figure. And what ends up happening is that through that expansion, we actually see warming at the surface with time, generally speaking. Now, the opposite is true if the 500 millibar heights begin to fall. We actually see the troposphere itself begin to shrink. So you can imagine that we have a smaller box now representing the troposphere itself. And when the tropopause, the top of the troposphere, begins to approach the surface, again, it never really reaches the surface, but when it does approach it, it brings a lot of that colder air at the top of the troposphere to the surface. So with all that cold air and all of that moisture interacting later this week, there is the potential for a large snowstorm over the central part of the country. And this could extend into the mid-Atlantic as we get into the day Saturday. So a very large region of possibly heavy snowfall. And right now the thinking is that there could be some areas that do receive 6 to maybe 12 inches of snowfall. Now this could adjust north or south with time, and a lot of it's going to be dependent on the position of the high pressure system. Right now the thinking is that the high pressure system will be somewhere over the Midwest, but if it does shift to the north, let's say with time as we look at later forecasts, that means that snow line could be further to the north. And that means locations such as Chicago, also New York City, could come into play for this storm. But also the high pressure system could appear further to the south, and that means that snow line would actually drift further south as well. And we could see maybe snowfall into places such as Atlanta, or maybe Columbia, South Carolina. But either way, it looks like we're going to have a large snowstorm and ice storm as we get into next weekend. Well, guys, we'll leave it at that today. I hope you enjoyed today's forecast. And if you have any questions about the troposphere or the tropopause, or why I used the year without a Santa Claus, these images here, you can leave that in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. But until our next video, I hope you have a great week.